Hey, yo. Fro Wrestling Podcast listeners, help us out and click subscribe to show your support. And while you're at it, if you are sick and tired of dropping $60 to $100 for the latest and greatest wrestling video game every year, stop immediately. Go to Wrestler Unstoppable, available exclusively through Facebook. You can create your own wrestler, sign contracts, get involved in storylines, headline pay-per-views, even build your own corporation, all included in Wrestler Unstoppable, available now to all Facebook users, totally free. If you're a YouTube subscriber, make sure you enable notifications so you get notified every time a new episode of the Fro Wrestling Podcast goes live. And if you want to become a member of the Fro Wrestling Podcast family, you want your name in the shoutouts like Mike in Lansdale, Harold in St. Louis, then go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/Fro Wrestling Podcast and sign up today. Don't forget, we have loyalty rewards. Any $15 a month contributor gets to co-host an episode of Going Live with me, and any of our $7.50 a month contributors will be entered into a drawing to also co-host an episode of Going Live. Hello everybody and welcome to this live episode of the Fro Wrestling Podcast. This is our first episode of the new year, and that means one thing: end of year awards. We'll get to that a little later. While we're doing that, we'll be taking your questions, your comments, anything you'd like to talk about in our chat function. Whatever streaming service you're using, use the chat feature. It will show up right here on the screen for me, and we can respond to anything you want to contribute to the show live. If you want to give us some feedback for a future episode, something you want us to talk about, questions, comments, concerns, any of that stuff, go to the Fro Wrestling Sound Off line at 267-642-1160, where you can give us your questions, your comments, whatever you want us to talk about. Make sure you tell us who you are so we can give you credit for your questions, comments, etc., and give those to us at the Sound Off line. It is a talk-to-text service. You talk, it texts it to us, and we can address your input on the show. Don't forget, if you are new to the Fro Wrestling Podcast, go to our homepage, Fro Wrestling, FROWrestling.com, to preview topics that come to the next episodes of the podcast. It's a great way to come up with questions, comments, things you want us to talk about for the Sound Off line. So check that out. For those people who've noticed, it's been a little while, crazy end of the year. We have a lot going on. We're going to get started with the huge, monstrous news of the day. All Elite Wrestling is official and Double or Nothing has been announced. Key details will be revealed next Tuesday when they will be making a major announcement from Jacksonville, going head-to-head with WWE SmackDown also taking place at exactly the same time. Almost like when they invaded the Raw Superstar show back in, when Jimmy Jacobs got fired and all that stuff. It's got a similar feel to that. But now you've got the financial backing of a monstrous powerhouse in the Khan family, the owners of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it is all done now. It is official. And one of the interesting things about this situation is that the Elite, Cody, the Young Bucks, Hangman Page, the whole group were offered 7-figure deals by WWE, and they turned them down. They really wanted to make this work. And the reality of the situation is it's always going to be challenging to start a new promotion. It's always going to be difficult to see what the outcome could be, and you're taking a big risk going to a brand new promotion. But the understanding is, 1, there is a huge financial backer. 2, there are networks already in discussion about purchasing the program and putting it on the air, which is fascinating considering they have no reputation. However, when you have benefactors like this, you have the opportunity to immediately get media attention and to bring a huge advertising campaign to the promotion. For those who are paying close attention, there was a countdown clock established by the Young Bucks, and when that timer ran out, if you watched the latest episode of Being the Elite, it was they were all around the Tokyo Dome, and right at midnight, they came together for the new year, and then they were all looking at their cell phones, and 3 of the phones said Double or Nothing, and then Hangman Page said, mine says something different, and he turned it around, and it had All Elite Wrestling. It's fascinating. We all suspected it. There was always a little possibility that something crazy would happen. WWE would offer a huge money to somebody and they would not go with All Elite, but it looks like it's a done deal. They're all in. And not only that, it's not just the Elite that are in. Christopher Daniels, Frankie Kazarian, Scorpio Sky, and many of the talents that were being used during the All In show are now being approached for multi-year deals with All Elite Wrestling. I hope that this huge opportunity works. I understand we've had Impact Wrestling, we've had Ring of Honor, we've had all these other promotions that have come, and they've done a decent job. Ring of Honor probably puts on the best action, but I really like the presentation of Lucha Underground. But this sounds like it's going to be a little better, a little different. They're going to invest the money that they need to invest to make this thing really work. And what's fascinating to me also is that this obviously is not something new, because All Elite Wrestling apparently turned down a major offer to purchase Impact Wrestling. I want you to think about that for a moment. Some people be like, yeah, you know what, I don't want that. It's a sinking ship. I get that. But you would already have a television time slot. You would already have a roster full of talent with contracts in place, probably not at the same level that they were going to be offered by the Khan family if they signed them out of nowhere. You know, now you're looking at free agents, which, by the way, today, DJZ, Zima Ion, became a free agent. That's a cool one that's out there. But the opportunity to work with an established locker room and then bring in this huge influx of other talent and really create something special was out there. And instead, it looks like All Elite is going to absolutely raid the independent wrestling market and bring in as much talent as they can. Now, one of the things I'm curious to see is what they do with Nick Aldis, because he is somebody who really needs to have one more match with Cody Rhodes, and he's the NWA World Champion. I would suspect All Elite Wrestling will have their own world title, but I'm curious if they would allow the NWA champion to appear on their show and bring his championship with him. It would be a harking back to, you know, the late 70s, early 80s, when the AWA, NWA, and WWF world champions would sometimes compete on the same shows. It didn't happen often. Usually the champions ended in some kind of schmaz ending to a match, but it at least broadened the wrestling world in the picture, and I'm hoping that something like that could be worked out. Another thing going on right now that's fascinating to me is Chris Jericho posting on Twitter pictures from the Minnesota Viking games last weekend, thanking the Khan family for getting him tickets, which almost teases his involvement with All Elite Wrestling. And it's, to me, it's strange to see how different things are right now with Chris Jericho with the WWE. You know, a year ago, he was on such good terms with them. I would never compete in the United States for anybody but WWE. And then he does this thing at Wrestle Kingdom, and he wrestles against Kenny Omega, and it goes over so well, and he sees the potential for so many other things, and he goes and he follows that passion. He faces Naito. He becomes the Intercontinental Champion. He appears at the Greatest Royal Rumble. He shows up for a match with Evil. He attacks Kenny Omega at All In. Now he's got other matches there, a rematch with Naito. Who knows what he does after Wrestle Kingdom? I suspect he drops the Intercontinental Championship back to Naito. If he does not, it'll be an interesting take on what he'll do next, because he could easily be a part of All Elite Wrestling. My understanding is he's a free agent as well. A lot of free agents right now in the world. I don't understand how WWE is allowing that to happen. And let me be clear. You know, obviously, if you're Cody, the Young Bucks, Hangman Page, people like that, you're offered 7 figures and you turn it down, you must have something really special in place with the Khan family. However, if you're somebody who is not the number one draw in the business, WWE right now should be in an all-acquisition mode. They should be signing every single talent that could possibly be signed. Silas Young should not have gone back to Ring of Honor. They should have thrown so much money at him he couldn't say no. You know, things like that. You know, you need to be in acquisition mode right now, because if you do, you shut down the competition. Instead, this is looking like All Elite Wrestling is going to pose a legitimate threat, not to WWE's success, but to their audience. The audience is already segmented. You diehard wrestling fans know we have not been happy with the product that WWE has put on for a significant amount of time. They put on a good match here and there. You know, the Daniel Bryan, Brock Lesnar thing was pretty awesome, and things like that. But more often than not, we get the same watered-down matches every single week, and this is a chance to see new matchups, new pairings, new matches, and new excitement, and that's something I think the wrestling fans have been waiting for far too long for. By the way, I want to get this in there. John the Sports Guy, I see tuning in from Alpine, Texas. Happy New Year, John. Great to see you with the show. I love seeing John. He's one of my favorite callers, one of my favorite listeners. He is my buddy. I miss him dearly. He used to be John from Hatfield. We used to hang out at the Triple WA shows that I go to, and unfortunately, he's all the way down there in Texas now, but nothing. Don't love him any less. That's my buddy John. So, welcome to the show, John. Good to see you here. Moving on to other things, Finn Balor. We got to get into some WWE news. Finn Balor apparently is scheduled for a monstrous push in 2019, something that is long overdue. You got to wonder how, when they create the Universal Championship, they decide that this is the flag bearer, this is the standard bearer for the Raw brand, and then because he gets hurt one night, they never go back to him. And it looks like at this point they may actually be considering a major push for him. Let's face it, he's not all that different in size than Daniel Bryan. And Daniel Bryan was very believable in the match with Brock Lesnar. Daniel Bryan's believable with just about anybody. If you could push Daniel Bryan, you could push AJ Styles and people of that size, you could easily push Finn Balor. He's got the moveset. He's got the skill set. No, he's not the most fantastic interview. He doesn't have the best ring psychology, but he's got some darn good ring psychology. I think he would make a fantastic flag bearer for the Raw brand, or move him to SmackDown. Put him in a feud, a long-term feud with AJ Styles, because that match last year was amazing. That's one of the things they ought to consider doing. But apparently he is in line for a major WWE push. Somebody who will not be going to WWE is New Japan superstar Hiroshi Tanahashi, signing a new contract with New Japan to stay there. There was some conversation that because of Nakamura coming here, and it sounds like Nakamura is going to be staying put, that he may be able to, for lack of better terms, romance Tanahashi to come over. It does not look like that's the case. Now the attention focus turns from Tanahashi's contract to Kazuchika Okada, who also, rumor has it, may not be as happy as he once was with New Japan, and if WWE came knocking with the right offer, may actually consider a shift. Now, he said in the past he didn't want to do that because he was the face of the promotion, but now the promotion is very much being geared towards people like Jay White, people like Tanahashi all over again, Naito, Kota Ibushi, people like that. And if you're going to do that, it's going to kind of push somebody like him down the card. After all that time of dominating the heavyweight division, it's kind of sometimes a tough pill to swallow, being pushed down the card. And you have to wonder how he'll respond to that and whether or not that would encourage him to come to WWE at some point. Impact Wrestling, everybody found out last week they have a new network home. They're going to be moving to this outdoorsy sportsman-like channel. It seems like an odd fit to me, but if it keeps their audience focused while they come out and look for a much bigger distribution deal, then so be it. I think if you're a real true wrestling fan, you'll find their programming, whatever channel it's on. I don't know about you guys, but if you have DVR, or for me, I have TiVo, I set up a season pass for every wrestling show there is. So it doesn't matter what network they're on, or what channel they're on, or what time they're on. You set it up to record and you watch it. You know, that's what people need to be doing, because otherwise it doesn't appear as though there's as many viewers for their program as there needs to be to make an appealing offer to another network, and that's what we would like to see. I want to see as much wrestling on television as possible. I don't have access to MLW shows. I would love to be able to see those. I rarely get to see a championship wrestling from Hollywood unless I go online. So this is a program that's national, and we really need to support that to help keep Impact Wrestling in there. It helps to have as many players in the game as possible. Competition breeds success. It puts pressure on creative bookers to try to figure out how to best market their stars and whatnot, and that's kind of what we need. Before we go further, I'm going to throw out the first couple awards. So it is the year-end. It's the 2018 year-end awards, and you guys have been voting. The links have been on the webpage, and I have been posting all over social media, and we had a very good response to our end-of-year awards. So let's start the awards part of the show with the Comeback Wrestler of the Year. It was a tight voting, and the winner of the Comeback of the Year, Rey Mysterio. And I can't argue with that. Rey Mysterio coming back to WWE and making an immediate impact. Also voted on by the listeners of the show, the most popular wrestler of the year. Not a surprise to me, surprise to some, overwhelming all but 2 of the votes, Becky Lynch. Congratulations, Becky Lynch. The manager of the year. Kind of not a surprise to me either, because I think he's the best manager in the business right now, and that would be Paul Heyman. Congratulations to those 3 people winning their awards with the Fro Wrestling Podcast for 2018. Moving on in the news and the rumor section of the day, Asuka, a lot of people discussing what she's like in the backstage area. How do the people receive her? And it sounds as though the WWE women receive her very well. She's very well liked. The bookers love her. The agents and the creative teams, they all like her. You know who doesn't like her? Vince McMahon. And I don't get that. I don't understand how everybody else sees something that Vince doesn't see. The fans get behind Asuka. Let's face it, they buried her for 6 months and then gave her the championship. And people immediately responded. And they were thankful, and they were understanding, and they were accepting of her as champion, because that's how much fans like Asuka. I don't understand why Vince McMahon seems to be so down on her, but at the end of the day, everybody else seems to have a very good feel for what she is like as a backstage personality. Now, moving back into the awards for the 2018 year, Tag Team of the Year, voted on by the listeners of the Fro Wrestling Podcast, and the award goes to the Lucha Brothers. Pentagon has done it all this year, and he and the Lucha Brothers have pretty much conquered everywhere there is to conquer this year. I was a little surprised that a team that is not in WWE or something of that nature, and if it wasn't the Young Bucks, I was actually thought the Young Bucks had a good chance to win, and here the Lucha Brothers walk out as the winners of that award. I appreciate that. That tells me I've got great hardcore wrestling fans tuning into the show. Thank you guys for that vote. Feud of the Year. The Feud of the Year award, there was a lot to choose from, but, and I don't think it's a surprise, the Feud of the Year award goes to Charlotte Flair versus Becky Lynch. Very much expected. Probably the feud of the decade so far. Fantastic work. And Match of the Year. This one kind of surprised me a little bit. Winning with an overwhelming number of votes. Kota Ibushi and Kenny Omega taking on the Young Bucks at Strong Style Evolved in the United States from this past year. The Match of the Year. Fantastic match. If you haven't seen it, find it online. You are missing out if you do not check out that match. So congratulations to those 3 award winners. What should WWE really do with John Cena? This has been a hot topic of debate for weeks now. Now that he's coming back to the company, I'm sure it's only going to be sporadic appearances because John Cena seems to think at 41 years old, 42 years old, that he's too old to wrestle. I don't buy that. And I get that he's starting to learn what The Rock went through when he went to Hollywood, but you know what? John Cena's not The Rock on the screen. He's not. I'm not trying to diss John Cena. He's a decent actor, but he's not The Rock. There's a reason The Rock gets paid $20 million plus a movie and John Cena's not. It's because The Rock really can bring it as an actor and as a wrestler. So it's not the same thing. And I wonder sometimes if his body has taken such a toll that's really the bigger motivator. It's not that he doesn't love wrestling. It's not that the acting is so much more rewarding. I really wonder how much he's been beaten down over the years. So the question is, what do you do with him? And at this point, I think that the most pertinent thing that they could try to do, and I saw this theory posted on a Facebook feed, and I didn't like it at first, but now I completely understand it. When you think about the things that have been going on with WWE in the last few months, I could very easily see them bringing Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall for an NWO reunion and announcing John Cena as the new leader of the New World Order and letting him get one last run in a prime spot. He doesn't have to be world champion. However, I think they will give that to him at some point just so he could break Ric Flair's record and he could be, because you've got to think about it, you know, Ric Flair's record sounds like a big deal, but more than half of it was done outside of WWE. WWE doesn't want to recognize that as the most world championships without it being an actual WWE guy. John Cena has won all of his world championships within the WWE banner. That's the guy you want to be the 17-time world champion, recognized, and be the number one title holder in all throughout history, and that's the guy who's the face of your franchise. So I suspect if I was booking John Cena right now, what WWE should do with him, put him in some kind of faction, if it's the NWO or something of that nature, and give him a run with the championship. And if I was really booking it, I would make him the heel. I would do exactly what the NWO did. I'd bring in this monster baby face that you can't possibly see as a heel anymore, and I would make him a heel just to give him that last run. It's more believable. I know it's been done before, but it makes a lot of sense. Speaking of hated wrestlers, our next category for the awards this year is Most Hated Wrestler, and Samoa Joe wins the Most Hated Wrestler of the Year. The Emerging Superstar of the Year, overwhelming vote getter, the Velveteen Dream. I couldn't agree more. Great voting. Thank you to the listeners. Now we get into a section of awards that I find very cool. We've got all these different Wrestler of the Year awards. Oh, I apologize. Before I get there, let's do this one. Independent Promotion of the Year. I appreciate this because I think it really speaks to how much people are attuned with what else is out there outside of WWE. The Independent Promotion of the Year this year for the Fro Wrestling Podcast is the Evolve promotion, which is a fantastic promotion. Make sure you go online, subscribe to their channel so you can see all of their shows. They are phenomenal. One of the awards we put out there I actually find humorous is the Wrestler in Need of a Change Award. And it's funny because I put the voting up 2 weeks ago, and then we kind of saw a little resurgence of his character this week, and he'll probably get buried next week. But the Wrestler in Need of a Change Award goes to Apollo Crews, which I think Apollo Crews being significantly underused. He's an incredible talent. I don't know if WWE will ever know what to do with him. He'd be somebody I'd be curious to see what they would do with him if he made it to All Elite Wrestling. Announcer of the Year goes to Michael Cole. I actually thought Josh Matthews might sneak in and steal that because of the reality of how he speaks, but that did not happen. Michael Cole wins Announcer of the Year. All right, I said I'm going to get into the Wrestler of the Year comments and Wrestler of the Year awards. I'm going to do that in just a second, but before we get to that, let's talk some more news and rumors. Why was Paige removed as the SmackDown Live general manager when she was doing such a good job and making so many people happy with her work? Well, it's a very simple answer. Fighting with My Family, the movie starring Paige's story, her backstory, her family history, all of that is being produced by The Rock and various other entities, is coming out soon, and she is going to be on the road promoting the film. And so you have to take her off television. She's going to be doing something much more significant in that role, and that's a beautiful thing. It's been long overdue. It got delayed, postponed, and things of that nature. Now it's finally going to come out. She's going to have to go do promotional work for that. That is the main impetus for why she's been pulled from television as the SmackDown Live general manager. I suspect she'll be back in a big way, maybe even as a manager. I would not be surprised if she managed, follow me on this, the Four Horsewomen. Might be an interesting change for her. Curious to see what they do with her character. Braun Strowman, apparently, is he medically cleared yet? And the word is, no, he is not. Braun Strowman is on track to be cleared for the Royal Rumble, but he is not medically cleared to perform in a WWE ring currently. So that creates a little bit of a problem because he's one of their biggest draws. Right now, house attendance is down. Raw attendance is down. If you look online, you could find pictures and video of how many people are not filling the seats at Raw tapings. And that's sad. Same thing with SmackDown. You got to have your stars front and present. You got to have them focus on the show. You know, I love what they did with Seth Rollins this past week, making him go back to old school, almost like heel Seth Rollins. I'm cool with that. And they're almost doing the exact same thing with AJ Styles on SmackDown, but we need more. And Braun Strowman is somebody we need to see every week on television. It may be time to give him a Universal Championship run. The only problem I have with it is I don't know who you would put him against at Mania if he was Universal Champion. I don't think anybody is on that level except and who could give him a legitimate fight. Yes, you could go the Seth Rollins route. I don't think that would work. You could go the Bobby Lashley route. I also don't think that would work. Maybe Drew McIntyre. They flirted with that before the Survivor Series and just after the Survivor Series. Maybe that's how you go. But I'm curious to see how they play this out. I really wonder if this is the time. Then again, if Brock Lesnar is going to fight UFC, you would have to get the belt off him. I can't imagine letting him walk into the UFC octagon with the Universal Championship on. So you might pull it off him at the Rumble for that. If he's not going to UFC right now, then you maybe leave it on him and have the match with Seth Rollins and Brock at Mania. Or you have an AJ Styles versus Brock at Mania or something of that nature. We'll have to wait and see. There's so many options, but Braun Strowman not medically cleared currently, and that is a huge blow to the WWE viewership. All right, going back to those Wrestler of the Year categories, we have a Wrestler of the Year for each of the major promotions, and then, of course, our overall Wrestlers of the Year. So we're going to start with the promotions. Lucha Underground, Wrestler of the Year, as voted by the listeners of the podcast, Pentagon Dark. I don't think there was another choice. Maybe Marty the Moth, but Pentagon Dark pretty much ran that promotion. He has been running that promotion for forever now, ever since they eliminated the character of Prince Puma. And I think there was nobody who would be a better pick than that. So thank you, people who tune into Lucha Underground, for choosing such a good representative. The Impact Wrestling Wrestler of the Year, Austin Aries. I find it curious because he's potentially no longer with the promotion and had such a strange split from the company, but let's face it, he really was the only head turner on the Impact Wrestling roster all year. Most compelling segments, interviews, his little faction thing, all that led to Austin Aries winning that award. Ring of Honor Wrestler of the Year, which is kind of coincidental because he's no longer with Ring of Honor, would be Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes voted on by the listeners of the podcast. The New Japan Pro Wrestling Wrestler of the Year, Kenny Omega. No surprise there, winning the IWGP Championship from Kazuchika Okada, ending that historic reign, having another phenomenal, stellar match with him, and then everything else he's done throughout the year, really being a great fighting champion. The huge, deep, emotional stuff against Cody, the Young Bucks, with Kota Ibushi, against Kota Ibushi, 3 ways, everything. Just been an amazing year for Kenny Omega, so congrats to Kenny Omega. And the WWE Wrestler of the Year, which encompasses Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, Seth Rollins. So, those are your Wrestler of the Years by company. We have 2 awards left. We'll get to those in a moment. Before we do that, one last tidbit of news for the day. WWE's return to Saudi Arabia has been confirmed. We're not sure how the pay is going to be. Apparently, the second Saudi Arabia show was not anywhere near as financially beneficial to the wrestlers as the first one. Maybe that's because the first one was an experiment and they didn't know how wrestlers were going to react to having to go over there and the tense nature, but they weren't paid as well the second time for Crown Jewel. And so now the question becomes, what are you going to do when talent doesn't want to perform there? Not just because of Khashoggi's death and all the political nonsense, but because they know they're not going to get paid the way they expected to get paid for that appearance. Curious to see how that's going to happen, but apparently there are 2 shows on the docket already for 2019 in Saudi Arabia. So we'll have to wait and see how the general population reacts to that. Let's get to our last 2 awards of the night, our last 2 tidbits of the show. Female Wrestler of the Year, and this is not a shocker in any way, shape, or form. Becky Lynch, Female Wrestler of the Year, the Stone Cold Steve Austin of women's wrestling right now, actually hitting a stunner at a house show the other day. Becky Lynch has redefined the women's division for WWE. Congratulations to Becky Lynch on being the Female Wrestler of the Year 2018 for the Fro Wrestling Podcast. And what to me is deserving, but an incredible shock. So you understand the rundown of the choices. You had people like Seth Rollins, Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles, Brock Lesnar, Braun Strowman, all these talents to choose from for the overall Wrestler of the Year. Wrestler of the Year is all company encompassing. So that means you've also got Austin Aries, Nick Aldis, Cody, Kenny Omega, all those people. And the winner of the 2018 Wrestler of the Year for the Fro Wrestling Podcast, Tommaso Ciampa, the NXT champion, takes Wrestler of the Year 2018. I just got goosebumps everywhere just saying that to you. Congratulations to Tommaso Ciampa for being the Wrestler of the Year according to the fans and listeners of the Fro Wrestling Podcast. I am very proud of my audience for picking absolutely phenomenal representatives of each one of those categories. Thank you so much to those who voted. If you didn't, next time we have a poll up, man, get involved. Get some votes in there. Help us out. But we love hearing from all of our fans. That's all the time we have for this episode. Make sure you check back with us next episode where we always try to run down the latest wrestling news and rumors. Special thanks as always goes out to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com. They produce all the music and sound effects we use on our shows. Today's podcast was sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bringing a new friend to family game night is easy with sketchy people. Showcase your artistic side in this game from Beazle Games by going to frowrestling.com and clicking the icon in the middle of the screen to pick up your copy today. And to alleyrepair.com. Contact Alley Repair today for servicing of all your classic skee-ball, pinball, and arcade game needs. If you're looking for your next career move, you're considering college, university life, or you just need some formal training for your next career decision, go to our website at frolifeplanning.com for all your higher education needs, as Fro Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Mr. Fro. I want to thank you for taking a few moments with us today for our first episode of 2019. And if you're looking for more wrestling news and rumors, go to www.tsj101sports.com for their latest articles on the world of pro wrestling, or go to my blog at Infro's Corner on frowrestling.com for my latest pieces. Until next time, take care, everybody, and have a great night.